Wolverhampton Wanderers will be hoping to improve on their previous disappointing season. To do that, they're going to need to rebuild their squad and get some more players in. But before they can do that, they've got to let some people go, and that is where we come in. Today we're having a look at 3 players that Wolverhampton Wanderers should sell this summer. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new, like that video and hit that notification bell. And now, let's discuss 3 players that Wolverhampton Wanderers must sell this summer. Here we have the Wolverhampton Wanderers squad. Now, before we get into the 3 players that should be sold this summer, let's talk about Wolves for just a moment. They danced with relegation a little bit too much last season, especially during Christmas when they were bottom of the table and it looked like they were destined for the drop. But to change that and not to have that happen again, they need to reinvest. They need to go again. They need to give Julen Lopetegui the funds that he requires to be able to rebuild and rejuvenate this team. To do so is going to be difficult though. FFP is not their friend, and to be quite frank, they're hamstrung when it comes to their finances, which means that they need to sell some players, and that is where we come in. So, we're going to be picking 3 players for them to sell this summer. With that in mind, let's have a look at them. The criteria for this I've chosen are if they're getting a little bit old, if their market value is of decent amount, and how their performances have been over the last season. Taking all of that into consideration, we have our first candidate, and it is Johnny Otto. Now, I'm aware that he has been a loyal servant to the club. I'm aware that he's been pretty good. He scored an absolute worldie at some point during last season, and he's been alright. But they have Aït-Nouri, who I think can be a better player. They have Hugo Bueno, who I'm very encouraged by. They are both 22 and 20 respectively. Johnny is 29 years old. He's got a market value of 13 million. While it isn't an exact fee, it gives us a general idea of how much he could be worth. 2 years left on his contract as well, so he's only going to depreciate from now if they don't get him to re-sign. And once he hits that 30 mark, it's going to be very difficult to get him off the wage books for any kind of sizable amount. And then we have a look at some of his performances, which haven't exactly been the greatest of things. Especially offensively, his progressive carries are not good enough for a fullback in my opinion in this day and age. And then we have a look at his progressive passes received. He's not getting high enough the pitch, which means that he's not progressing far enough. His touches in the attacking penalty area aren't fantastic, but they're not really the end of the world. And generally, from a defensive point of view, I think he could do a little bit better. So, for me, I think he can go. That's number 1. The second one is going to be another fullback, surprisingly enough. And it's going to be Nelson Semedo. I was a fan of Nelson Semedo at Barcelona. I thought he was a really good signing when he came to Wolves. However, his defensive frailties have been shown time after time again, and if I'm honest, I'm a little bit sick of it. 29 years of age, 2 years left on his contract, this is very similar to Johnny, and 15 million euros fee. I think you need to get him off the books. He can't hit 30, you can't let him hit 30. It's just a no-go. Then you look at his 50 million euro fee, you could probably get a little bit more from that, depending where he wants to go. Maybe Saudi might want him. Maybe. And then you consider his positioning, which is atrocious at times. His tackling is fine, defensive capabilities are okay. However, I just think you could do better. And in saying that, I just think he's just not good enough. For Premier League quality to be getting to where Wolves want to be, which is around about the top 10, I think he needs to be better. He can't be better because he's 29 years of age and he's only going to get worse. So, with this in mind, I think Keanu Hoover, who has had a fantastic season with Stoke, I might add, if I just show you his stats, he has been absolutely sensational. Look at these stats! For a fullback, these are ridiculous. Genuinely ridiculous. He's in the 99th percentile for non-penalty goals. He's in the 99th percentile for non-penalty XG. He's in the 93rd percentile for assists. He is a machine. And when you consider his age, his tackles, his interceptions, his aerial duels won, yes, it's a different league, I understand that, but his take-ons, his touches, progressive passes received, all great attributes for a fullback, especially an offensive fullback. That's what Semedo is meant to be. Give him some time, give him some patience, and I think he will come good for Wolves. Semedo, however, needs to be moved on, in my opinion. And that brings us to the final player. Now, unfortunately, because of the predicament that Wolverhampton Wanderers are in, you can't be sentimental about this stuff. You just can't. I'm sorry. It's just not something that is allowed or available or necessary. And for that reason, I've got to say that Raul Jimenez has got to be sold. I am aware about his injury. I'm aware it's atrocious, it's horrible, it's awful. I get it. And I admire Wolves for standing by him. I do. I admire them so much. They have really stuck by him. But he doesn't play at all. And you might say that's down to the manager. You might say that's down to a numerous amount of factors. But he doesn't play. He's 32 years old. You're not going to get money from him. I understand that. €6 million is an atrocious valuation for a player of his quality. But he's just not quite there anymore. His injury changed him. And that's not his fault. But it's also not Wolves' fault. And when we think about it from a perspective of Wolverhampton Wanderers, they need to get him off the wage bill. And I say this for very good reason. I'm saying this because his wages, if you can see this, are actually £100,000 a week. Now, for a player that, to be quite frank, does not play football for Wolves at the moment, it's atrocious. Now, that might be down to the manager, it might be someone else, but if he's not going to play, get him off the books. You're saving £100,000. And when you look at some of his statistics, even when he does play, his stats just aren't there. They're just not. He doesn't seem like the same player. He doesn't seem in the same frame of mind. Why would you? It was a miracle that he survived. It's a crazy thing that he's still playing football. But you can't be sentimental about this. And for that reason, I think that Raul Jimenez has to be sold. He has to be sold. He's got to go. You save so much money. It's a shame, and I admire them for wanting to stick by him. Maybe you take the hit for another year, but I wouldn't advise it. And that's not something that I would want them to do. I don't think it's fair on him. I don't think it's fair on the club. So it just makes sense that they just naturally part ways. I'm sure he can find a club elsewhere. I don't think that's an issue. I really don't. But for Wolves' sake, I think Jimenez needs to go. Let me know who you would let go out of this Wolverhampton Wanderers side. Is there a player that I've missed that you believe needs to go before the three that I've mentioned? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And how do you think Wolves are going to deal with their transfer business this season? Let me know. I would love to hear from you. Let's get that discussion started. But that's it from me for today. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. But until then, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.